All right, guys, we are going to continue our class read aloud counting by 7's today. And the last time that we read together, Willow got some of the worst news that any human could ever get. She found out that her parents were gone forever. They were killed in a car accident. And so what's really interesting about this book, and I'm going to help you guys try to navigate through that, is that we go back and forth in time quite a bit. So you're going to see as we begin chapter 2 that we are going to do a flashback. So chapter 1 was all about the present. Mom and Dad died. And now, right after that, we're going to flash back to 2 months ago. Okay, so here we go. Let's begin. I'm about to start a new school. I'm an only child. I'm adopted. And I'm different, as in strange. But I know it, and that takes the edge off a little bit, at least for me. Is it possible to be loved too much? My two parents really, truly, L-O-V-E me. I think waiting a long time for something makes it more gratifying. So that means that you can kind of infer here that Willow's mom and dad waited a long time for her. And then she was able to be adopted, and so you can tell that that's where that connection is there. The correlation between expectation and delivery of desire could no doubt be quantified into some kind of mathematical formula. Really pay attention to how Willow speaks, okay? This chick is brilliant. But that's off the point, which is one of my problems, and why, despite the fact that I am a thinker, I am never a teacher's pet. Ever. So right now I'm going to stick to the facts. For 7 years, my mom tried to get pregnant. That seems like a long time of working at something, since the medical definition of infertility is actually only 12 months of well-timed planning without any results. And while I have a passion for all things medical, the idea of being that regulatory makes me feel nauseated, as medically defined as an unpleasant sensation in the abdomen. Twice in those years, my mom took a pregnancy test and it turned out to be blue, but twice she couldn't keep the fetus. How onomatopoetic is the word fetus? Insane. That means that she had a miscarriage. Her cake failed to bake, and that's how I came into the mix. On the 7th day of the 7th month, is it any wonder that I love that number, my new parents drove to the hospital 257 miles away from their home, where they named me after a cold climate tree that changed the world, or at least our world. Time out. It probably wasn't 257 miles, but that's how I need to think about it. 2 plus 5 equals 7, and 257 is a prime number. Super special. There's an order in my universe. Back to adoption day. As my dad explains it, I never once cried, but my mom did all the way down Interstate 5 south until exit 17B. You see, my mom weeps when she's happy, and when she's sad, she's just quiet. I believe that her emotional wiring got crossed in this area. We deal with it because most of the time she's smiling very, very wide. When my two parents finally made it to our single-story stucco home in a development at the end of San Joaquin Valley, their nerves were both shot, and our family adventure began. I think it's important to get a picture of the things in your head, even if they're wrong, and they pretty much always are. If you could see me, you would say that I don't fit in an easily identifiable ethnic category. I am what's called a person of color. My parents are not. They are two of the whitest white people in the world, no exaggeration. They are so white that they are almost blue. They don't have any circulation problem. They just don't have much pigment. My mom has fine red hair and eyes that are pale, pale blue, so pale that they almost look gray, but they are not. My dad is tall and pretty much bald, and he has a seborrheic dermatitis, which means that his skin appears to be constantly in a state of rash. This has led to a great deal of observation and research on my part, but for him it is no picnic. And if you are picturing this trio and considering all of us together, I want you to know that while I don't in any way resemble my parents, somehow we just naturally look like a family. At least I think so, and that's all that really matters. I want you to pause the video after I'm done explaining what I want you to do, and in your writer's notebook, I want you to just spend some time drawing pictures of Willow and a picture of her two parents. I want you to take the description that Willow just gave you of these three characters in this story and spend some time just drawing how that picture that she'd created with words translated to the picture that you have now in your mind. Take some time to draw Willow and her mom and her dad now. Pause this video, and then you can start it up again when you're done. Besides the number 7, I have two other major obsessions: medical conditions and plants. By medical conditions, I mean human diseases. I study myself, of course, but my illness has been minor, not life-threatening. I do observe and chronicle my mom and my dad, but they will not let me do much diagnostic work on their behalf. The only reason that I regularly leave the house, not counting going to the forced prison camp, also known as middle school, and my weekly trip to the Central Library, is to observe sickness in the general population. It would always be my first choice to sit for several hours a day in a hospital, but it turns out that nursing staffs have a problem with it. Even if you're just camped out in the waiting room pretending to read a book. So I visit the local shopping mall, which fortunately has its share of disease, but I don't buy things. Since I was little, I have kept field notes and made diagnostic flashcards. I am particularly drawn to skin disorders, which I photograph only if the subject and one of my parents isn't looking. My second interest, plants. They are living, they are growing, they are reproducing, pushing and pulling in the ground all around us at all times. We accept that without even noticing. Open your eyes, people. This is amazing. If plants made sounds, it would all be different, but they communicate with color and shape and size and texture. They don't meow, they don't bark, or even tweet. We think that they don't have eyes, but they see the angle of the sun and rise of the moon. They don't just feel the wind, they change direction because of it. And before you think I'm crazy, which is always a possibility, look outside right now. I'm hoping that your view isn't of a parking lot or the side of a building. I'm imagining you see a tree with delicate leaves, or you catch a swaying of grass in a wide field, weeds pushing up through the crack of a sidewalk, or even in the distance somewhere. We are surrounded. I'm asking you to pay attention in a new way and view it as being alive with a capital A. My hometown, like a lot of Central Valley in California, has a near-desert climate, and it is flat and dry and very hot over half of a year. Since I've never lived anywhere else, whole months of days where it is 100 degrees outside seems normal. We call this summer. Despite the heat, there is no escaping the fact that the bright sun and rich soil make the area ideal for growing things once you add water to the equation, so I did. So where once our house had a rectangle of grass, there is now a 40-foot high stand of timber bamboo. I have citrus trees, orange, grapefruit, and lime next to my year-round vegetable garden, and I grow grapes in a variety of vines, annual and perennial flowers, and in one small area, tropical plants. To know me is to know my garden. It is my sanctuary. It's sort of tragic that we can't remember the earliest of the early years. I feel as if these memories could be the key to the whole who am I question. What was my first nightmare about? How did my first step really feel? What was the decision-making process when it came to time to ditch the diapers? We're going to pause there for today. And I want you to just spend some time in your writer's notebook writing about Willow Chance. What did you learn about her in this first part of Chapter 2? We're going to finish Chapter 2 later this week, and you're going to turn in your thinking about Willow. But I want you to just write down what you learned about Willow in your writer's notebook today. Go ahead and get started.